most basic component of resiliency planning is a reliable backup configuration. But how can you run backup safely when your users are asking for 24/7 access to data? This quick tips video is a high-level introduction to synbackup, a utility you can use to prevent synchronization errors within your ISAM files. In addition to an overview of synbackup and how it keeps your index and data files nicely aligned, you'll learn about the 3 main implementation options described in our documentation and where to go to find more information about the utility. Before we begin, here are some basic prerequisites to keep in mind. This utility is supported in traditional Synergy on Windows, Synergy.net on Windows, and Unix. To run synbackup, you must have administrator privileges. On a Windows machine, that means you're part of the administrators or backup operators group. To run synbackup on Unix, you must be a system administrator whose effective user ID is root. Unlike Windows, to use synbackup on Unix, all cooperating processes must set the environment variable synbackup to 1. This can be achieved by setting synbackup equal to 1 in the set.sde script file created by the installation. Be sure to enable the synbackup environment variable in the set.sde script for each Synergy installation area if you have multiple installations of Synergy on your Unix system, or you use both 32 and 64-bit versions. Implementing a data resiliency plan involves a reliable data backup system and a high degree of data availability. Basically, your users can access the data they need when they need it. What does this mean for you? For starters, the goal is to complete your backups without shutting down your application. And if you're not kicking users out before each backup, you'll need a plan for preventing updates to your ISAM files while they're being copied to a different machine. Without one in place, you could wind up with bad data. And to put it mildly, bad data is bad. More specifically, copying an ISAM file while it's performing an update operation can result in index corruption, where the index file and data file are not in sync. Synbackup prevents this and similar errors from arising by freezing the updating of files until the backup is complete, then thawing the I/O to allow updates to start again. Synbackup consists of 4 backup modes. Pending mode signals that a backup is about to be performed. The isutil-r or fconvert utility will not begin operations on a file if this mode is set, but no other Synergy program started after synbackup is enabled will be affected. In on mode, a backup can be performed, and all I/O by cooperating processes is frozen. Conversely, in off mode, a backup should not be performed. The not allowed mode is set by isutil-r or fconvert when creating a file. When synbackup exits, regardless of whether it succeeds or fails, it resets the backup mode to off. All other cooperating processes are unaffected. In a straightforward backup scenario, the typical sequence of commands in a Windows environment is as follows. synbackup-c creates the binary synbackup.cfg file, thereby enabling the synbackup utility with the backup mode set to off. On Unix systems, synbackup-c creates a shared memory segment and stores the address in the dbldir synbackup.cfg file. Then, prior to the actual backup, the backup mode is set to pending with synbackup-b. Next, synbackup-s sets synbackup to on and freezes Synergy updates until the backup is complete. Finally, synbackup-x unfreezes updates by setting the backup mode to off. When it comes to integrating this sequence of events into the larger system, you have a few decisions to make. For starters, do you want your application to be aware of synbackup? The path of least resistance from a development standpoint is to use synbackup without making any changes to your code. The downside to this strategy is the lack of communication from the application to your users. If the application is not aware that a backup is taking place, it can't warn your users that updates are temporarily frozen. To create a better user experience, it may be advantageous to give your application the ability to detect what synbackup is doing and alert your users accordingly. Here again, you have a choice to make. You can tell your application to check for a pending state and wait until updates have been restored before starting a transaction that may involve multiple file updates. To refine this strategy of preserving your transactions further, you can make your application log when a user starts a transaction and when the transaction is done. To prevent incomplete transactions, Any transaction started before the pending state is set should be allowed to complete, while transactions started after pending mode is initialized should wait. This way, you can make synbackup wait until your active transactions are complete before it can freeze updates. That's it for this quick overview of synbackup. For more information, make sure to check out these additional resources. Synergy VSS Writer, for instance, is a service for Windows that can automatically turn synbackup on while a system backup is in progress and turn it off when the backup is finished.